Okay, please, court.
Mr. Hagerman just described a relatively simple situation. Mr. Hagerman described a relatively easy case. If you look at an overhead camera, and if you start off with the notion that they didn't know that it was there, these trained men that on a nightly basis go out into the most dangerous areas of Memphis, do the most dangerous job in Memphis, are supposedly not aware that the cameras that they rely on in doing their job over and over again is not there, that it's a got you moment. That would be okay if Mr. Hagerman had stood before you all, looked you in the eye and said that Tadarrius Bean, as he's out there on this, be on the lookout for a person who has been tased, pepper sprayed, and overcame 3 officers. If he had looked you in the eye and told you Tadarrius Bean has to hit start on his body-worn camera to record it, it would be close to not disingenuous if Mr. Hagerman looks at you in the eye and says, you know, that camera that's 100-something feet in the air doesn't really capture the story as well as the body-worn cameras, because you can hear the 59 times that he's asked to give his hands. If Mr. Hagerman does not describe the fact that while he's on the ground doing whatever he's doing, that Mr. Bean has just run 80 yards with 40 pounds of equipment on, trying to capture somebody who made eye contact with him, and he asks him, hey man, and as soon as he gets the word man out, he takes off running. It would be an easy case if that night they didn't report to work on Flickr and discuss the fact that they had a spike in crime in that particular area, and that's where they're going to. They say their prayer and they get out of there and they go to those particular areas because their work is important work. Police work is dirty work. It just is. It doesn't mean that the men are dirty. And he continues to say, I'm not calling them monsters. He can't call them monsters because y'all got common sense. He can't call them monsters because the evidence does not bear the fact that these men are monsters. I will start with what I agree with. I agree with the fact that they left Flickr going to East Memphis. I agree with the fact that there was a person seen speeding, a suspect. I agree with the fact that this person drove 2 miles after Emmett Martin, who delivered blows, etc., cut on his blue lights and his sirens. What I don't agree with the fact is that there is a mystery regarding why he was ripped from a car. When he decides to drive 2 miles away from blue lights and sirens, it is high risk. These men are trained to engage in high-risk situations. And when you are engaging in a high-risk situation, you cannot go up to that window and say, ma'am, please get out of the car. You just can't do it. You get the person out of the car based on your assessment of that situation, based on your training. It's that simple. He does that. Now keep in mind, whatever happened on that first scene, getting him out of the car, that he was sprayed, and et cetera, let me tell you what he wasn't. He wasn't hit. He wasn't punched. Nobody pulled a pistol at him and said, I'm going to blow your brains out. He wasn't tased until he got up and started running away from these officers. So let me be clear. While that stuff is happening, let me tell you who wasn't there. Tadarrius Bean. Tadarrius Bean is 3 miles away with Demetrius Mills, who you'll hear from probably today, on another stop with a guy with a warrant. And just like the other 400 odd arrests that he had made over the last 365 days, there wasn't an incident with it. He's making an arrest because the guy had warrants. He's doing what he's supposed to do. And guess what they do? They hear a call out over the radio, and this is a very important point. There is no back room, back alley type of let's go behind closed doors and everybody throw the body-worn cameras. We're going to give them some 1960, 1970 type of justice. This is a call out over the radio by officers. Man has been tased, pepper sprayed, approximately 6 foot tall, 6'2" it turns out, and weighed about 180 pounds. So he might be the smallest out there, but I have news for you. That's an SEC wide receiver size. That's the size of a person who's athletic, who has the ability to run and to overcome 3 grown men. It's that simple. So the fictionalized stuff will stop this week. And you'll have the ability to listen and to assess the situation. And you will be able to assess it like you're doing it on a January 7th cold night at 8 o'clock, rainy night, ground wet, and guys that only want to make it home to see their families and loved ones doing the best job that they can do. So, while Tadarrius Bean is on this site and they're about to arrest a person who's in custody, who they're making small talk with, and he's saying, yeah, you got me, I knew it. What do? They have to let him go. Because when you hear that bolo call, when you hear your person who you just had prayer with and just talked about going out into the world to do what you're supposed to do in the city of Memphis, when you hear somebody say he's been tased, pepper sprayed, and he's got away from you, it tells you one thing. It's danger. Let's go. And so what do? They go. They drive that 3 miles and they start trying to do their job. You will see evidence that's clear that Tadarrius Bean, they said, well, you know, they didn't have a talk about trying to hurt somebody. It's just the opposite. They didn't want to hurt anybody. They want to make it home. They want to be safe. And they want to do their job effectively. And that's all you're going to hear about. So at 8:32, the first interaction that Tadarrius Bean has with the person who subsequently will become Tyre Nichols, he makes eye contact with him while sitting in the passenger seat of a 2-man vehicle. And he does what he has to do or he'll get fired. He doesn't have the option to say that this person on the bolo who just took off running, that, you know, I need to figure out if he's got a pistol. I need to figure out if he's got a knife. I need to figure out what he's got. He doesn't have the ability to see 6705 Ross Ridge and what you're all going to be able to see this week, Mr. Nichols hiding behind cars and leaving objects. He doesn't have that ability. So he doesn't know what he's left because, you know, unless he can have a crystal ball and say, hey, my job, I'm going to be safe, I'm going to make it home, all he has to do is to get out of the vehicle at that time and run like hell to try to catch this man on a dead sprint with 40 pounds worth of gear at night, and he does. Now, let me backtrack, because normally I don't try to talk about, and I know my friend Martin over here is going to talk about what Justice Smith does, but there's a telling point in this. Justice Smith drives up while Mr. Bean is driving down Ross Ridge, and in that area, ask one question: where he at? Which way did he go? Which way did he go? No conversations, no nothing, but he went that way because he knows that my partner in arms might be out there trying to apprehend this person nakedly. And when they arrive on that scene simultaneously, and they take him down. Now, there is a 3-minute struggle. You'll get a chance to hear all of that. You'll get a chance to hear the body worn camera. But keep in mind that Tadarrius Bean cut his camera on. So you're not trying to kidnap. You're not trying to ag assault. You're not trying to rob or murder or anything else somebody when you are recording yourself. You'll see you'll see Tyre Nichols do everything but get his hands. He reaches up. And does he get kicked down and then beat down and all that? No. They slap his hands 4 times, hands away from the vest of Tadarrius Bean. And then they try to get him. Now, he talked about a recurring theme. This recurring theme of being pepper sprayed. Mr. Mills will come up. And Mr. Mills will testify about he pepper sprayed himself. If he's truthful and is consistent, he's going to also say, I pepper sprayed that whole area. And these other guys who didn't get a chance to go take a break and catch their breath and all this stuff, you know, you'll hear information about that first scene, and you're going to see Mr. Hemphill on that first scene. You're going to hear him hocking phlegm for an hour because he was pepper sprayed. He's not able to catch his breath. blowing his nose over and over. But during that time, who did not have the luxury to let this person go? Tadarrius Bean. Tadarrius Bean, and you'll hear about him. Graduated from the University of Mississippi in 2020. He goes to the academy in 2020 in August. January of 21, he graduates and he starts as an MPD officer. He was a patrolman too. He had no write-ups before that night. He had no complaints against him before that night. He had no issues or accusations of misconduct before that night. Had no verbal or written reprimands. He took his job dead seriously. He's assigned to Team 1 of the Scorpion Unit, which, by the way, is considered the best of the team in the Scorpion Unit. And he's the youngest member. And you'll get a chance to see what Tyre Nichols has done. And I don't want to get into Tyre Nichols prior to that night. I don't want to talk about who he was and all that. It ain't my business. I want you all to judge his actions. Consider the actions on January 7th, 2023. That he drove 2 miles away from blue lights and sirens. He was at Highway 385 in Riverdale. He drove all the way to Ross in rains. You'll see that he ran from Bean after making contact. He refused to stop. He refused and resisted arrest. He was actively resisting the whole time. And you can ask the question yourself, does he have a right to do that? Does he ignore the lawful commands of the officers that are involved? Was he actively resisting by running and walking and pulling away from Bean? And you will get a chance to see the actions at 6705 Ross Ridge prior to the interaction with Detective Bean. Scorpion Unit, street crimes operation to restore peace in our neighborhoods. You'll see who it was, the brainchild of C.J. Davis, the chief. It was created in 2021. Consisted of 3 teams. And it focused on statistics related to crime spikes in certain areas. And Team 1 was sent to these dangerous places to sometime execute warrants and things like that. It was effective. Knocked the murder rate down 18.5 according to Chief Davis. 18.5%. Went from 303 murders during the year before to 258. I've told you about the meeting on Flickr and what they did in the interim. You can go to the next one. You will get a chance to look at policy and training. You'll see MPD policy. You'll hear terms like active versus passive training. Passive resistance training. High risk stops. You hear testimony regarding the response to resistance policy of MPD. And you'll hear about hard hands. Now, kicks might not be the most tasteful sounding thing, but kicks are number 1 in the hard hands policy. It just is. And they followed the policy. You'll see the use of force continuum. You'll hear test questions that were given through the MPD Training Academy and how they discuss things like tunnel vision. When you're trying to look at a person and you're trying to hold on to them and you're focusing on one thing while other things might be happening. And you'll see training regarding the taser usage and when it's most likely to happen and when it's done the right way. And you'll hear about handcuffing. You'll see the difficulties of handcuffing a person who does not want to be handcuffed. And it will be consistent testimony that is one of the most difficult aspects of the job. It is what it is. You'll see aspeton usage training. Now, Mr. Mills might have buyer's remorse regarding it or whatever, but the fact is, on that particular night, he deployed his aspeton and he used it the way that they train you to use it. 3 strikes to the arm. If it doesn't work and give planning compliance, you put it up. That's what he did. Now, go to the next one. You'll get to weigh the witnesses. Some witnesses might not want to take a chance and they say, hey, you know what, I will do a plea. And that's their business. That is not in any way attributable to Mr. Bean. You can't say, well, he said he's going to do one thing and then talk about it, but you'll have an opportunity to weigh why Mr. Mills is testifying a certain way. And you'll get a chance to ask certain questions. But as it relates to Bean, the consistent thing will be there's never anybody saying that he's ever done anything wrong, illegal, that he used excessive force in any way, and there won't be much criticism of his actions on that particular evening from Mills or any other witness testimony if it's consistent with how they've given statements in the past. Next one. You'll also get to hear expert testimony. When you hear expert testimony, weigh it properly, is what we ask. And questions like, how many times have you testified as an expert? Is this the first case or the first facts that you've ever given expert testimony regarding? And then their knowledge of certain things like human factors, fatigue, tunnel vision, resistance level, body movements, center of gravity, those types of things. Those are questions that the expert will need to talk to you about. And you'll see videos. You'll see videos that were turned on by the body-worn camera of Bean, Mr. Mills' body-worn camera, and you'll then have a syncing mechanism where you'll hear the voices and see what's going on even with the Skycam. Next. During the time frame, there are two kicks, as Mr. Hagerman talked about earlier. And this is that relevant three-minute period that they're struggling. 2 kicks, 3 uses of the aspartame, 5 strikes, all by people other than Mr. Bean. And then that window tightened, but it's the same amount. 3 hits with the aspartame, 1 with an open hand, 2 punches. The punches are done by Mr. Martin. And you'll see that we're talking about the punches happening within a 13-second window. So while they are holding one hand that's cuffed, one hand that's not cuffed, you'll have expert testimony about the danger of releasing the hands. Because if you release a cuffed hand or a hand that's uncuffed when a person has a cuffed hand, he has a weapon way more dangerous than anybody on that scene. The jagged edges of a handcuff can kill you. Now, this will isolate the actions taken, and it's just a demonstration of what you're watching from that scene and from the video as it relates to the movements made by Tadarrius Bean. It's just what you saw earlier. And you can write down the specific times that I ask you to give some focus to. That's at 20, 33, and 57. That shows that Mr. Nichols is blading his body. And it shows that Tadarrius Bean, while having been pepper sprayed earlier, is simply holding on to him. You'll see the amount of times that if he wanted to deliver some kind of punishment, that he could have punched him or kicked him or done something other than hold him, trying to get his hands into compliance and cuff. You'll also hear it as it's going on, as he's saying, give me your hands, man. Give me your hands, bro. Come on, give me your hands.
Can we approach real quick, Judge?
seconds later. This is at 20, 34, and 12. Once again, look at where the hands of Mr. Bean will be. Now, the demonstrative is simply for you all to see, to give them a better sight of what to look for, not as any sort of evidence that'll come back when the court allows. But look for his hand placements during that time. And that second later when Mr. Martin comes up and he does kick once at his head and once seems to land. This is when Mr. Mills comes up and he tries to deploy his asbaton. Keep in mind, you will get a chance to hear the video, the audio, and of the body-worn camera, and you'll see why they are placing their hands in the way and the angles that they are. Intended to be that is simply to try to avoid him getting hit in the head by accident, so he can have a clear shot at the arms for pain compliance. And you'll see, but you'll get a chance to see that. But that's 20, 34, and 56. That's when the first strikes from the baton is being that was deployed. Second strike, as he turns his body a little bit more, is for that arm to be the target that's intended. You'll hear the evidence about how they are trained for asbaton placement when they're trying to make a person comply. Now, you'll have the opportunity to see how Mr. Nichols gets up, whether or not he stood up on his own or whether or not somebody stood him up. During this time, one of the hands has been handcuffed, the other hand has been freed. Mr. Bean has grabbed him by the waist, and that's at 20:35:08. At 20:35:09, I want you to look and be able to isolate how his body movement, in particular his center of gravity, and what he's trying to do. And you make that determination, but look for his body and his body movements and the center of gravity, and how it is pictured there is how it will picture on that video as Mr. Nichols continues to try to move away. At 20:35:10, you make the determination on whether Mr. Bean is trying to take Mr. Nichols back down to the ground, or if he's standing them up as the state has indicated. You see that center of gravity, and you'll look at it on your own, but remember those particular times because it tells the complete story. And that is one of the hands, as I indicated earlier, one hand is cuffed, one hand is not cuffed, but has the potential for him to be free, and that creates a danger for the officers, and you'll have an opportunity to view that complete video. And that just isolates what's at the top. So, You heard during Mr. Hagerman's presentation the sad realities of it. No one is here to in any way diminish the fact that a person's life was lost. Simply saying that that person's life was not lost because these officers had some bone to pick or some gripe or trying to do something punitive to this person. Simply trying to do their job based off of the information that they had. Mr. Bean only knows what came out on that call out. He only goes to that scene. He only strikes his hands during the time when he first arrives, and you'll see it on the body worn camera of both Mr. Mills and Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean has been pepper sprayed just like Mr. Mills, except he doesn't have the luxury of walking off for a minute and coming back like Mr. Mills did. If Mr. Mills says that he was angry regarding the fact that he wouldn't give his hands, and so he used the aspartame out of anger, only he can second guess himself. But that's not Mr. Bean saying hit him with an aspartame. More importantly, he hit him in the area that Mr. Bean was trained that Mr. Mills was supposed to have hit him in. Now, kind of glossed over it because it was on the PowerPoint, but you will see that the training under the conditions that these men faced, having been pepper sprayed and having an active resistor, MPD policy and MPD training trains you to administer blows way worse than anything you've seen. The training of Bad Bob has never been in any way shown in the media or anything like that. You all will get to see it. And you will see how these men are trained under these conditions and what they are supposed to do under the conditions according to their training. And we're simply asking that you not create some account of the actions that they were supposed to have taken in the cool, calm light of this room versus men that are acting under their training and discipline on that particular night. And with Mr. Bean, I'm going to give emphasis to this as I sit down. Consider the fact that he had no prior incidents of anything. And on this particular occasion, he did not have the option to say, no, I'm not going to try to chase, and I'm not going to try to put handcuffs on this man. It's that simple. And I think that if you apply the law the proper way, all 7 counts will be not guilty. Men trying to do their job, and it's a dirty, hard job.
Thank you.